Now, when one's introducing an MEP, it's not always easy. Some people say MEPs are rather anonymous, that people don't know who they are. Now, that is not a problem we have with Daniel Hannan. I first heard Daniel speak against the European Union, I think 20 years ago. We were at school, and there was an audience of perhaps 3 or 4 score people, not many more. But Daniel then, he spoke, I try and think the difference now between when he gets perhaps 2-3 million hits on YouTube, network television, and I think still the core of it is the same. Whatever you read and whatever the Labour-leaning media may say, dredging up old speeches or taking clauses out of context or suggesting that every Conservative should think the same, Daniel now is still as modest, as unassuming, and as unfailingly polite as I remember him at the beginning of his career some 20 years ago. In terms of his oratory, as you will soon hear, it is perhaps a little honed over the years, but essentially it is still the same way of speaking that I remember inspiring people at school. Most importantly, the message has been constant. 20 years ago, it was what Margaret Thatcher said at Bruges. Now it is a message that unites our whole party. And at its core, it is quite simple. It is that we should only be governed by people whom we elect and whom we can call to account. Not by judges or by quangos at home, nor by commissioners in Brussels. Whatever, it should be by our elected representatives in a free and independent Britain. Daniel.
Well, Mark, thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, it is always a huge pleasure to be here. This is, I have 83 constituencies in the southeast region, but this one is my favourite one. You've heard me say this before, and Jim is telling you that I say it to everyone, but it's not true. It's not true. Let me advance 1 or 2 pieces of evidence in support of my claim that this is an unusually fine association. The first is the setting where we are. I mean, where would you rather be on a beautiful September day like this than in such a Kentish garden, in such a beautiful house? And let me add, I'm sure on everybody's behalf, my thanks to Fern and Peter. It's absolutely wonderful that they, I'm assuming that they run a full-time catering business and have just taken a little bit of time out of it to host all of us today. We're all very grateful for the wonderful lunch we've had. I'll be expecting the same at every branch that I do in Medway from now on. But also, what wonderful people you choose as your officers. It's very nice to see Tom Mason here locally and the Coombers. And I think this is the first time that I've been here since you reselected Mark as your candidate. And I want to congratulate you on your wisdom and your prescience in doing that, because you, my friends, have chosen somebody who will always be a servant of his constituents. Of all of the politicians seeking to climb the ladder, Mark is perhaps the one who can most honestly say that he will owe his position in the House of Commons not to the party whips, but to the people for whom he wants to speak. His accountability, his loyalty will always be down towards the constituents of Rochester and Strood rather than up towards the party whips. You might even say that Mark has not only won his position without the support of the party machine, but rather against the party machine. And that puts you in a very strong position, because it means that you will have a Member of Parliament who is independent in the best possible sense. That is to say, he will not feel bound to recite scripts placed in front of him by another. He will always remember that his first loyalty is here to his own people, to the people who put him in his place. And he will go to Westminster rather than to grab at the levers of state control, aiming to push powers downwards and outwards to Medway Council, or better yet, to private citizens. And while I'm in the middle of this paean of praise to Medway, I would also like to add my congratulations to Tashi. Mark and I last year, by chance, were in Nepal for a wedding. a friend of ours, a British friend of ours, was marrying a Nepali girl, and we arrived by chance during an event that you don't get to see very often in this day and age, which was the election of a communist government. The Maoist party of Nepal swept the board, and we were rather puzzled because it's a rather counter-cyclical thing. You don't often get Maoists. I don't think Maoists have ever won a free election before. But now looking at Tashi, I realise what the problem was. All the good, sound, patriotic, conservative Nepalis are now members of the Medway Association and winning seats that we've never won before. And what an achievement it is. I really want to stress that, looking at it with a slightly bird's eye perspective as you get covering the southeast region. It is an amazing achievement to have taken a seat which we haven't held for what, the better part of 40 years, the safest Labour seat in Medway. Absolutely extraordinary achievement. And the great thing about a margin like that is that all of you can claim to be personally responsible for Tashi's victory. And really, it's the best possible piece of news.